Call the regular meeting of the Culpeper Planning Commission to order. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Serio,
Here.
Mr. Fitzsimmons,
Here.
Ms. Taylor,
Here.
Mr. Flanagan,
Here.
and Mr. Clemens is absent. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda as written.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. Comments and correspondence from citizens, visitors, and delegations in the audience on items not on the agenda.
You don't want to approve the minutes?
Oh, well, let's do that too. My pen got ahead of me. Approval of the minutes, July 18th, August 15th, August 31st, and September 19th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, I'm not going to say that again about the comments. Is it anyone here to speak to us that is not about the new business or the public hearing? All right, unfinished business.
No unfinished business.
New business, public hearing, CUP 4375-2023 conditional use permit.
Thank you, sir. CUP request 4375-2023. It's a request to establish a commercial, recreational, or entertainment facility at 1550 North Main Street. More specifically, the applicant is seeking to reestablish a roller skating rink at the property. The property is about 5.25 acres. It's zoned C3 general commercial. Commercial recreation facilities, including skating rinks, are currently allowed in the C3 district with an approved conditional use permit. So as you all know, this property had previously operated as Dominion Skating from the late 70s through 2020 when the rink closed. The operation of the skating rink during that time, it would have been considered a legal non-conforming use per state and town code. This is basically because the rink was established prior to the zoning ordinance requiring a conditional use permit for that use. So per the code, that legal non-conforming status is lost if a use is discontinued for a period of a period exceeding 2 years. Because of this, the conditional use permit is needed now to reestablish that use. So as we had discussed at the introductory meeting, this case is somewhat unique where we have a request to reinstall a use rather than developing a site from scratch. So there is an approved plan on file for the original development of the site as a skating rink, and this is what was used as the basis for the applicant's concept plan that accompanied the application. So you can see that full plan on this slide. So the proposed rink itself, it's confined to the existing approximately 25,000 square foot building, but the applicant did provide several markups and notations on this plan, clarifying where certain areas of the site were never fully developed to match what's shown on that original plan. So specifically, this would include the paving and striping of several parking areas and drive aisles shown on that original plan. I would note that despite this, the site does meet current parking requirements for the commercial recreation and entertainment use with just the parking that exists on site today. Due to a change in the parking standards since the 1975 plan. So the applicant also used the concept plan to outline several improvements to the site. These are aimed at bringing it closer to conformance with modern zoning standards. So these are a little bit hard to make out on the blown up version, so I've just zoomed in here. Improvements include the installation of street trees along the North Main Street frontage, the installation of a bike rack there at the entrance, the provision of ADA accessible parking spaces, the screening of an existing dumpster on the site. This is another view, a different portion of the site. Here you can see some additional landscaping. They've got a buffer there on the bottom. That would be on the shared line with Dominion Apartments. They've also got some hardscaped landscaping around the building itself. You can see the other ADA spaces there in the top corner. So I did also want to just briefly run through some of the work that's already occurred on the site. And this has been since the request was introduced last month. Firstly, if you remembered, I had mentioned they had two accessory structures. You can see there in the top that were located in front of the building, which would be a violation in terms of current standards. So you can see on the bottom picture here where they have removed those.
Did they remove them or move them?
That I don't know. I know they had considered both options, so I'm not sure if. I don't believe they're on the site anymore.
Is the violation their being on the site or their location on the site?
So it's the rule as it stands is an accessory structure can't be in front of your building, basically.
It's
So
the
that would,
location.
right, yes, sir.
If they were able to pick them up and move around to the sides or the back, it would be okay.
Right, and like I said, I'm not certain if they've been moved to the rear of the site. They may have been completely removed from the site. I know it was one of those. So let's see. So they've also started to install some of the landscaping that's shown on that proposed plan. Here you can see that the street trees have been planted along that Main Street frontage. So just a quick note on those. They are using flowering ornamental trees due to the overhead power lines there. This just creates more of the a wider, lower buffer than what would be typical with the taller trees with the higher canopies. They've also started installing some of the trees there along the shared line with Dominion Apartments. Again, they're using the ornamental trees due to the overhead lines there. So as I mentioned, the subject property is zoned C3 general commercial. You can see the properties to the north, south, and east are also zoned C3. That property to the west is zoned R2, which is medium density residential. The property to the north, and then that's directly across the street, is currently undeveloped. And then you have Dominion Apartments to the south and the gas station sort of the southeast across Main Street. In terms of weighing the request against the comprehensive plan, there are a couple considerations I would point to. Firstly, the property is designated as mixed use / commercial on the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. Entertainment uses are named as typical within this land use designation, along with a pretty wide range of other uses, including retail, office, hospitality, and high-density residential. The comprehensive plan does note that variation of uses on adjacent properties are acceptable in the mixed-use commercial future land use designation, whereas more distinction and separation of those uses may be encouraged in other designated districts. The property is also located within a business investment area. These areas include properties which have shown signs of deterioration and underutilization. They're identified as being in need of investment and improvement. So the comp plan recommends that the town work with property owners and developers to promote redevelopment and reuse of existing commercial properties within these areas. So as you know, the Planning Commission is able to recommend conditions for approval on CUP requests to ensure that the intent of the zoning ordinance is met. On this slide, there are several conditions that I brought just for your consideration. The first essentially just ties the approval to those improvements that are identified on the concept plan and requires that they be put in place within a year of issuance of the permit. So this includes the installation of the street trees along the North Main Street frontage, the installation of the buffer trees along the southern property boundary with Dominion Apartments, the installation of the hardscape landscaping along the main building, the reconfiguration of existing parking spaces to serve as accessible parking, the installation of a bike rack or racks to accommodate at least 10 bicycles, and the construction of a 6-foot tall privacy fence around the existing dumpster on the site. The next two conditions are based on some ongoing conversations between staff and the applicant to address current site conditions that aren't necessarily captured in the scope of that concept plan. The first relates to on-site parking, where town code requires that any vehicle where vehicles are going to be parked has to be paved and striped. So with this site having several areas that are either gravel or they're paved without the stall striping, this would just clarify that parking on the site is going to be restricted to those areas that are paved and striped. So this wouldn't prevent the applicant from expanding the parking to those areas in the future. Essentially, what's shown on that original plan can become parking area, but it would need to be paved and striped and brought into conformance with modern standards. Secondly, town staff had observed that several of the lighting fixtures on the property aren't currently functioning. So without adequate lighting of the parking area, that would be out of compliance with town code. So we just included a condition that those lights would need to be restored within 30 days, or restored to working condition within 30 days of the issuance of the conditional use permit. So again, we're in a little bit more unique situation in this instance where the rink has been in operation since October and also formally operated as a rink for around 40 years. So it wouldn't necessarily be reasonable to bring a fully developed site into complete conformance with modern standards. But the conditional use permit process does provide the opportunity to consider those more reasonable improvements to the site to bring it a little bit closer to conformance. As you know, the Planning Commission is tasked with looking at whether a proposed conditional use will be in harmony with the goals and policies of the comp plan and considering whether there are any anticipated adverse effects on public health and safety or any detriment to surrounding areas. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have for staff, or if you're ready to open it to public hearing. I believe the applicant's with us and can potentially answer more specific questions, but thank you for your time.
Fitzsimmons.
I just want to make sure, I know the department's policy is to fulfill all the, substantially all the conditions before moving to approval. And in this case, they're more than usual, but it's a slightly unusual situation. It's an area with a history and so on and so forth. And I just want to make it, ask you to make it explicit that the department is comfortable with it, moving ahead with this work pending.
Well, again, this is different than a site plan where the
Yeah.
planning commission has the approval authority.
Right.
A conditional use permit,
Recommendation.
exactly, the planning commission is a recommending body of this.
Right.
A conditional use permit traditionally does have conditions associated with it of items that the applicant will fulfill in order to mitigate adverse impacts.
All right.
Question
Any
as
other
well.
questions?
As far as the lighting improvements that are requested, I know we've supplied examples of lights that we like to see. I mean, downward facing lights with proximity to the apartments, has that been discussed, or how, or are they just gonna repair what's there and that's all they, I mean, I guess that's all they need to do, right?
So that was the idea behind the condition, is essentially, it's kind of like we talked about last time. We do have the existing site plan on file that includes the lighting on it. This would be more about restoring those to working condition rather than
Rather
a
than,
new fixture.
okay.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing.
Thank you.
You would come forward and state your name and place of residence.
Jeffrey Miller, and I'm the owner of the Dominion Skating. The lighting is for you. I think it's the downward facing. It's the street poles. We've got most of them restored. They're still working on two, if that helps any. Just from what I know Dominion's come out and fixed a few. But is that what you're meaning by downward facing?
Yeah, I mean, anything that's new that we put in town, and when it's proximity to residential, you don't want those lights shining
Yes.
as much as you can avoid shining into their homes, and
Yeah, so they're all facing away from apartments, away from the street.
gotcha.
So yeah, I think all that's okay.
Okay.
But it was only.
The other aspect is that the transitional, the trees, the buffering trees will also help to
Yeah.
screen.
Which we'll have done shortly. We're having a little hard times since it's winter. The nurseries don't have everything in stock, but we're working on it. We're hoping to have it done here, hopefully in a few weeks, everything.
Guess I'm out of order with going back and forth. It's kind of a public hearing. You
Yeah.
can speak and,
You know, I was just trying to answer a couple of things that they had asked. I don't know
Okay.
if there's.
Is there any other questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in one fashion or another about the proposed conditional use permit for the skating rink? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Thank you. Is there a motion?
I move that we recommend, subject to the conditions set forth. Should I read all of this? Subject to the draft conditions being fulfilled, that we forward this to the town council with our recommendation to approve.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Any discussion?
All
Okay.
opposed?
Aye.
Very
I
good.
think it's great.
Yeah, I've been to birthday parties there. It's personally, for what it's worth, I'm really happy to see you guys coming back. Way to surge back.
The street trees and everything will be a nice improvement as well. Because, it's just such a vast, open area there, and I think it's gonna really add to it, so.
We're hoping in springtime here to maybe doctor that building up a little bit, make it look a little nice too. Maybe paint it white and make the signs black, to let me get rid of that old looking color.
Well, you offered a good, place for people to come together for a long time, so it'd be nice if
We're
you
hoping
could,
it keeps the kids off the streets.
if you dress it up a little bit, that's gravy, but just being back in
She'll
operation,
be one of them.
Okay.
just being back in operation, I think a lot of people in the community will be happy about that. In
All
my
right.
humble opinion.
Moving on to other business.
No other business at this time?
Follow-up items.
No follow-up items at this time?
Planning director updates.
The one thing I will note is that we are working hard to get the draft zoning ordinance out to the public in the next 2 weeks, so ideally end of next week. With that in mind, tentatively, I would propose that the January work session, if the planning commission would like to have the presentation and discussion on the draft ordinance, we could certainly do so.
Would we be having that at our regular scheduled next Thursday?
No, this would be the January
Okay.
work session that I would anticipate doing
Okay.
that.
At our last meeting, there was a little discussion about the fact that there are a couple of things coming together and that are significant and unusual. One is the statute. After that would be the comprehensive plan review. I'm blanking, but I think there is another. Anyway, but this is an opportunity to kind of stop and think strategically a little bit, and instead of we're often on our heels, kind of taking things piecemeal as they come. So this is an opportunity to think a little bit and see if we can be a little proactive. And James suggested that we have a retreat of some kind, nothing fancy, but just where we meet away from the regular business and examine our role and our agency vis-a-vis these trying to think of the right word, these significant actions, and review our position, or what we can do to make the most of them, basically, to serve the town as well as we can. I don't know if that message made it to you, if you've had any time to think about that, or if you have any thoughts or response to that idea.
Always happy to sit down and talk with the planning commission and to have sort of a chance to get the feedback and input. Again, you are the citizens, the residents of the town who are the ears to the citizens in terms of being able to inform myself and the staff and ultimately town council of the direction that we want to be going in. So chances to talk and to get that direction are always encouraged.
So James isn't here, and I know this is, I imagine we're not going to be meeting next week, or has that been decided yet?
We had the conversation. We have one minor item that can wait until the January meeting, and so we had anticipated canceling the work session next week.
So just on the cusp of the pause, looking ahead to January, it would be very interesting and exciting finally to see the draft statute and dig into that a little bit. But I'm curious what that idea came up, and I'm curious what the other commissioners think. Is it worthwhile? Is it an opportunity to give good value to the community, or is it just more talking?
I want to have Jim here to talk about it, seeing.
Yeah, he's a better
Yeah,
advocate
definitely.
than I am, for sure, yeah.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, I remember when he was talking about it, I thought, yeah, it's been a while since we've had like a retreat type thing, more of a future planning discussion, and it goes right in with the new material that we'll be looking at, so whatever works.
I mean,
Best for every-
related to that, as we're coming up to budget season, we've got the state annual planning conference coming up next July. We're again wanting the indication of commissioners' desire to potentially attend that, so we can look to have that budget as it is. We're going to look to enhance the budget for the commissioners, but something like that, we could certainly do it on the heels of that, or incorporate, if a number of the commissioners were planning to go down, incorporate and do something actually there as well. Again, we would advertise it as it would be a public meeting, but we could certainly have space. It's away a little bit. It's in a different environment.
Where's it gonna be this year, or
Williamsburg.
next year? Oh, interesting.
So something to consider as well.
Is that usually a long weekend, or is it a whole week?
It usually runs from Sunday through Wednesday. So sort of opening reception Sunday evening, some mobile tour Sunday afternoon, all day Monday, all day Tuesday, and then half day Wednesday.
Do you know what days it is in July offhand? Or whether it's middle or late, early, middle, or late?
It's the latter part of July.
Okay.
Give me 1 second and I'll tell you the specific dates. July 21st through 24th.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a time where we used to go to those, and other similar things more often, and, I think we did talk about if we can budget for it to get back to some of that, because there is a good bit of value in that.
Well,
And-
Jeff, I remember was it last year or the year before, Jeff came back so charged up from all the ideas and talking with, people in the professional community. And it seems like a good idea. If we can break the time free from our own schedules.
Kind of wandered into commission discussions.
So,
Thank you for the director updates. Mr. Serio, you have anything to add?
Nothing.
Ms. Fitzsimmons?
no, thanks.
I'm suspiciously quiet. Have nothing to add to the meeting?
Good.
All right.
Motion
Meeting
for
is
adjournment.
adjourned.